Now we'll go into our first presenter for the day. And I thought long and hard how to introduce this next person. I have the privilege of meeting with him and introducing him once a week for the last probably 2 years. And so I was trying to think, do I want to do something different than what I've done in the past? Let me go ahead and probably give people some personal information or, just mix it up a little bit. And then I realized he's our CEO and founder, and he's going to have the mic after I leave the stage. And there was no way that I was going to go ahead and let that happen. So with that said, I want to bring to the stage for a message or opening message for the day to set the tone, our CEO and founder, Dr. Patrick Kennedy. Welcome.
So good morning. This, I think, is the 18th or 19th one of these we've had. 1990 or 91 was the first one. The first one was in the Ramada down by the Fisherman's Wharf. And I remember my wife drove this 89 Suburban, and it was too big to get in her garage. So she had to park across the street, and we had 83 people there. So interesting growth. So the first thing it says, do not bring notes on the stage. There is no podium. Okay. Well, we'll see if we can cope with that. So one of the first things that you do, you hope when you're about to present, is that the person in front of you doesn't go in and put all your slides up. So I had to look and see what slides Greg was going to show, just so I could give him some challenges. But what I was going to do instead, he has, on that first slide, he has a series of initiatives on what we're doing. And being the senior person in the group, I thought maybe it would be better for me not to describe what we're doing, but try to address why. So the first one he has on his list is pervasive data collection. In other words, we go get data from everything that we can. Maybe IoTs, maybe things that crawl, everything. Why are we doing that? Well, I will make an observation. In my 50 or so years in this business, I have never seen it fail that value is monotonic with scope of data. So as you expand your data and you see more and more information, you make more money. So that's one of our initiatives. The second one was a PI system health. These are a set of utilities to help manage a PI system. Why are we doing that? Well, one of the reasons we're doing that is machines scale, but people don't. So a lot of the systems we see out there are getting to the limits of their abilities simply by the ability of people to use them. And so we needed to automate a lot of that. The third was PI vision. This basically illustrates one of the key factors, and that is if you're looking at analytics, if you're looking at the way people make money off data, it's actually a layered thing, and it doesn't make any difference how many layers, because information is unique in that the more people that consume it, the more valuable it is. So the fact that one group has the data, you increase its value by giving it to more groups. And so we're going through the whole effort of increasing our visualization and interaction with people. The third one is to talk a little bit about these things we call integrators. I don't know if you've used one, but these are essential because there are so many things out there that need the data. They need it processed, aggregated, selected somehow or another, presented to them. And so these become more and more critical in our whole operation. And the last one is the OSIsoft cloud services, because we, like everyone else, see that this is going to change the way systems are used just as much as handhelds, just as much as computers themselves did. And so these are now starting to move off into and have cloud services that are offered. So, so that's what we're offering. And sort of to get a real-time test or get a sync on what we're doing, we have customer advisory boards, and we meet the day before. Most of them that met with us are sitting here in the audience. So I thought that what might be interesting was to actually record what people wanted us to do, because there's always a lot. And so I have my top 10 list. And these are the list of things that were recommended by this group of customers, from the least number of hits to the most number of hits. The first one was innovation. We had customers that would like to see how we can innovate with these data. We need to work with others, and they need to work with us, and we need to be able to provide them some sort of new way of doing business. So innovation was number one. Number two was the mobile worker. Like always before, we're finding that some of these basic changes in architecture change the whole way people work with the system. So many customers, if not all of them or most of them, are experimenting with ways of taking the data and information to the workers instead of making the workers come back and get the information. And that reminded me of a story, and that was years and years ago. First of all, a batch digester is very, very important unit in a paper mill. You fill it full of wood chips, you put nasty chemicals in it, it dissolves away everything but the fiber, and that goes out and you make paper out of it. Basically, every percent you can get through those, means you can make another percent in the system. So what one of our customers did is that they watched this operation. The operation was that the operator would go open a hatch, and there's two conveyors. There's the softwood and hardwood that fill it up, and they look in to make sure that it wasn't bridging, that the things were full, and maybe jog it a little bit to make it full. Close the hatch, walk back inside, and hit a button that says start. So he developed a new kind of advanced control that was remote automatic impregnation or something. The name was the full line. Basically what he did is he moved the button from the control center out to the field. And so after the guy looks, he hits the button. That was worth several percent more fiber made by the same digesters, which is worth millions. So remote workers and how you get the data to them have been important, and that was in the early 80s. It's been very important for years. Third thing, and it had a couple of people, was open source. What are we doing with open source? And you'll see some of those we'll show today. But how are we supporting these big communities of people writing applications, using applications within a community, as trying to build software that works in the industrial world? Speaking of which, this morning there was something on the TV about this game. I forget the name of it, Firefight or something. But they actually grossed $126 million in their first week. So maybe we should get out of this industrial business and go into gaming. It's pretty impressive. Then they wanted, number 4, some sort of joint R&D and innovation. The one thing that's always been important about this conference and about OSI is that we, A, see everything, and B, we actually use the same software in many different industries. And this transportability of the software is a very important characteristic of software because it ups the quality of it and it makes it so you can actually build more and more things instead of having customized in each industry. But what that's allowed us to do, it's allowed us to see how power uses information. In pulp and paper industry, what do they do with their workers? In pharmaceutical, what kind of special requirements are needed? And so they would like some joint level of innovation. These are not necessarily, are we going to send a group and they're going to send a group and we sit in Hawaii and innovate. There's already a company that does that, right? They lie on the floor and innovate. But what it does mean is that we need to be able to share more about how various data can be used and how they could make some money off of it. Number 5, and I don't know how many for you this is important, but legacy migration came up. They don't want us to build a whole new system and say, oh, by the way, that old system, that's the old system. So they want to see how this legacy migration occurs. And you're going to see some of the beginning methods. I don't think the migration is going to be quite as fast as the pundits think, because much of our installed base is sitting in hostile, highly secure environments. But it is going to change, and they want to make sure that we, as we always have, bring along the existing systems as well. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th one was applications. We had a lot of discussion applications. Asset management seems to be done by many. Some optimization, but there's many more. There's logistics, supply chains, all of this, and they all use the common database. They all use the common data. They may have other data they use, but they all need this particular data. So there was a lot of interest in what we could do to support the application construction for our users and for our partners. The 7th one was data sharing, which may sound easy. You just show it to everybody, like Facebook. Yeah, that's why it's not so easy. So, but there's a need sometimes to share. As I say, the more people consume the data, the more valuable it gets. And so sometimes you want to share with your customers, with your vendors, with your employees, even amongst yourselves. And how do you share these data? And now you're talking about many different systems that have the information. They have their own ways of protecting that. And of course, you could totally protect your data by just shutting it down, but then you don't get the benefits from having the data. So data sharing was actually surprisingly high in the list. We're moving up the list, by the way. The next one was analytics. Most of the people we talk to feel that how we treat and look at the information, analyze it, and make responses is going to be one of the highest payouts of having these kinds of systems. As I say, we know that a lot of the analytics is done not by artificial intelligence, but by real intelligence. It's just people looking at it. But again, the fact that they've already consumed the data doesn't mean it should not now be consumed by others, by any kind of an algorithm or robotics or whatever, sometimes long-term, sometimes short-term, but analytics and what kind of tools we can build to support the analytics of the world was pretty high on their list. The 9th one, second to the highest, were IT issues. We are an IT system. We're a computer system. We need networks. Oh, now we go to clouds. We got to get a network over to the cloud. We got to get data. You know, we have systems that are running with 22 million tags in them, and they're bringing in events at 1 million events per second. How are you going to send that down your Comcast link and watch it run? You don't. So that means you really got to start dealing with this whole IT issue of, if we're going to have these kinds of benefits, we need to address how the data get into the cloud and how they get out, and et cetera. There's also issues of security, because some of these systems, they basically are the only thing that sits between the hackers and basically the process control loop in an industrial system is very tender. So you basically keep it out through a DMZ, but that's a very important point of it, because security is a key part of everything. Redundancy, how it deals through a power outage, and et cetera. Although for the power customers, we realize that the power never goes out. But if it were to do that, you're ready for it. So that was the 9. And they go from about 1 up to the top, which was 6 of the 7 people. So the question is, what was number 1? Well, we'll see how this fits. Number 1 was data quality. Because now you're getting more and more remote from his data. You're no longer sitting there. An operator could sit there and look, and they know that obviously this sensor is wrong because they can look out the window and see that the unit's still there. But a machine doesn't know that. So if a machine looks at the data and starts making pathological decisions, then that's bad. But there's many steps between being catastrophically bad and being a little bad. So how do we actually look at these data and improve the quality? And part of that is in the data infrastructure itself, because we know that sensors drift. We know that sensors go bad. We know that things go offline. And there's usually a multiplicity of data, a multiplicity of sensors in that vicinity that will allow some judgments to be made. So that was number 1, data quality. So the reason I gave you those is that today we're talking about 5 efforts that were results of 5 things that our customers wanted to see done. And I just gave you 10 more. So it's a pretty good guess that at least some of those will have to be addressed between now and the next user conference. Maybe not completely finished, but addressed, whatever addressed means. Addressed means we can say we're doing it, but we haven't done it yet. But they will give you some indication. But I guess one of the things I'm trying to make the point is that if there's things missing, you need to tell us. If there's things that are really, really important and we had it clear down at number 1 or number 2, you need to tell us. Because we very much ascribe to a philosophy that we started in 1980. And that is, it's easier to sell something people want to buy than what you want to make. You might think that's obvious to a vendor, but it's not. So we truly would like to make things that are easy for people to buy, extremely high value, and actually work. So give us your feedback and welcome and enjoy the conference. I hope you see a lot here that will spark some of those comments for us. Thank you very much.